Well, thank you for having me. I'm known for my time in Scientology. My name on YouTube is, I'm known as Apostate Alex. So I joined Scientology as a teenager. I was in a vulnerable moment in my life, and they offered hope and the solutions and the answers. And then very quickly got sucked in and spat out. And then I kind of went about my life and went about my business. And then I Googled Scientology for the first time and started reading all of these horrific stories of abuse that other people have suffered. And I realized that, hold on, this is a systemic issue that is worldwide in every city in which Scientology operates. And as somebody who used to recruit people into Scientology, I feel like it was only right to try and do something to help people get out. So decided to tell my story, but mostly try and give other people a platform to tell their story and try and raise the alarms about what this organization is doing here in the UK.
As a teenager, you sought out and looked for Scientology was it a community? Were you lost? What was the time in your life? Or
Yeah, I didn't seek it out. It just kind of happened to come into my life at just the right time. And that's how Scientology recruitment works, is it exploits your vulnerabilities. So for me, I had, lost a lot of friends had passed away growing up. I'd moved around a lot as a kid. And I was kind of, I think I was 15, thinking, what am I doing in the world? Like, what's my place? Who do I want to be? At the same time thinking about GCSEs and what career I want to go down. And at the same time having all this guilt around these people around me dying and not knowing why I'm here. And all of these questions all happening at the same time as Scientology came into my life. And I did a personality test. They said that this will help you discover who you are and unlock your true potential. I thought, okay, well, what's the harm? Like, I've heard a few things about Scientology, but, I'm not going to sign up and, give my life away. I'm just doing a personality test.
so did they come to you, or did you go to them? How did that kind of work?
I can't remember. I think I came across them after, I'd seen a few things about Scientology. I can't remember if it was online or on the TV or whatever, but I'd heard these stories about Scientology attacking critics and all of this. Didn't know anything about their beliefs. And I was like, okay, but what do they actually believe in? Why are they so fiercely defending their faith to the point where they will attack journalists and harass people? And, we call it fair game in Scientology. So it's not like I was interested in joining because of that, but I was interested in finding out more. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was in a vulnerable point in my life, and it just all kind of fell into place.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a chance happening, but actually that's what Scientology is designed to do. Yeah. The whole mechanism is shaped to do that in a very specific way.
Yeah, because it's almost like there's a little crack in the door, isn't there? And then the Scientology sort of seen that crack in the door and then put its foot in it and then went, right, okay, can we just kind of gently bring them through the crack in the door? Is it a gentle approach, or
there is nothing gentle about Scientology, especially recruitment, right?
Really?
Yeah, it's all about the hard sell, right? So there's a policy. Everything in Scientology is directed by policies, letters that are written by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder. And you have to follow the policy exactly as it's written. There's no deviation. There's no changing it. There's no, room for interpretation. You have to do it exactly as it's written. Every aspect of Scientology is like that, and that includes recruitment and hard selling. And it's actually policy to invade someone's privacy in order to sell them a book or a course. It's called Finding Your Ruin. So this is what I ended up doing every day when I was on staff at the Church of Scientology in London, was going around trying to find out what's ruining people's lives. What is the most traumatic or the most stressful or the most heartbreaking thing that you've ever experienced? What do you want to change about yourself? And I believed that I was asking those questions in order to help them, because once I know what's ruining your life, I can present Dianetics or Scientology as the solution to that, because I believed that was going to help you. And that's how it's designed. It's all about re-traumatizing, exploiting people's vulnerabilities in order to then present Scientology is the solution.
Yeah, it's manipulation techniques, isn't it? You know?
100%.
Yeah.
But you don't realize that when you're in.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize what I was doing was emotionally manipulating people on the streets of London, right? I thought I was selling books and helping people by introducing them to this new technology that's going to change their life for the better. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that, no, I'm manipulating and abusing these people.
Yeah.
Right.
I think everything is that, though. It's how you can sell it, how you can structure something in a way to sell something. It's a perfect marketing tool, isn't it? Really, you feel you're a part of something. Was it about that, being a part of something when you're lost and you're being brought up in a new family, a new community?
Yeah, I think that's very much a part of it. There's lots of aspects to why I joined Scientology and why anyone would join Scientology. When I was on staff, we used to have a saying, crying is buying. If I can get you to cry, that means I found out what's upsetting you the most because you are, in effect, crying about this issue in front of me. Therefore, you're buying the book because I can really easily present Dianetics or Scientology as a solution to that. And it's horrible. Like, that's a horrible thing to do to a person, but that's how it's designed. You're talking about opening a crack in the door and then becoming a part of a community. Yeah, that's one of the selling points. But ultimately, it's no, this thing has the potential to change your life. Is it not worth a shot? For 30 quid, try the course, give it a go, see what you think, see how you feel. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, so what? Move on, do something else. But it's 30 quid and it could change your life. Mm. So you're kind of invited to give it a go. And then over time, you're sucked in. You're spending all day, every day, surrounded by these lovely, happy people that all seem to be doing well in life and they're all doing great and they're all Scientologists. And, there is that community element, yes. And that's one of the things that they use to get you to join staff, is saying, hey, you can be a part of this thing. And not only are we a great community of friends that are getting on, we're changing the world. That's how deep this belief system goes.
And the longer you're in it, the more you kind of believe in it because now it's giving you a purpose in life. Does that kind of just strengthen as time goes on? Yeah,
I think everyone's purpose in life is different, obviously. The way it was pitched to me was not that Scientology is your purpose. They would say, okay, your purpose in life is to help people, right? Who doesn't like helping people? That's one of the easiest ways to try and recruit someone into Scientology. Once they've been doing courses and so on, you'd be like, okay, cool. So Scientology has helped you, right? Yeah, I've done these courses and it's helped me with communication or confidence. It's helped a little bit. It's like, okay, cool. And you can see all these other people doing Scientology and it's helping them, right? It's like, yeah, okay, cool. So why wouldn't you want to help people by delivering Scientology to them or by recruiting more people in? Like, the best way to help people is through Scientology. So why wouldn't you want to help, by joining staff? It's twisting that purpose into something that benefits the church. Do you get what I mean?
I do get what you mean. And I think it's such a young age as well. That's kind of, were you feeling like rebellious when this kind of happened? Was it kind of
no? I was a goody two-shoe student, a straight A student when I joined Scientology. Yeah. When I left, I got an F. So I was doing my GCSEs when I started, and I got 3 A stars, 5 A's, 7 B's. I did my GCSEs a year early. Very good student. Joined Scientology. Did my A-levels and didn't do very well in my A-levels at all, and then started university and left during my first year, didn't go to any lectures because my whole mindset had been shifted because education isn't really that important because Scientology is what's important. Yeah. You can read a book, learn about geography or history or drama or whatever it may be, but that's not going to change people's lives. Yeah. Scientology is actually changing the planet, and it's the only thing that will. Yeah. It's a totalitarian extremist belief system.
So was there anybody in there was like a mentor that really kind of you were close to, like you looked up to? Because you've got Scientology in itself, but it's usually somebody in there that you've got a connection with that kind of keeps you there and kind of holds you there and nurtures you. Because I don't think anything on its own, the idea, I don't think that's strong enough. So was there anybody like that?
It's everybody's job, right?
So you're surrounded.
Yeah, it's love bombing, right? You're surrounded by love bombing, gaslighting. The whole thing is designed to make you feel like you are, going to fix your problems, that you're going to help other people, that you are great, you are respected. When I was 15 or just turning 16, I joined staff, right? They gave me a job title, they gave me an office and responsibilities. Obviously I didn't get paid, but that almost didn't matter, because as a teenager, these people were looking at me like an adult. Like, I've got responsibilities. Wow, they're not treating me like a kid. I can go in and out whenever I want and study what I want, rather than being told what to learn in school. So as a kid, it is very empowering. But again, it's designed to be that way. Actually, what it's doing is manipulating you, because it's making you feel like you're in control. But actually, if you don't conform, then you get into trouble. When you're a staff member, you are punished. You are assigned, it's called lower conditions. You can be put on hard manual labor. For me, I was locked in a room and forcibly held against my will, and had to write down everything I'd done wrong against the church, simply for asking for help, because I was complaining that Scientology wasn't helping me. But it's all designed to be pitched as a way of helping you. When I got out of that room, I thanked the guy that locked me in there.
Oh, so there was no alarm bells ringing from that?
No, because I was so brainwashed to believe that he had to lock me in there so that I had to do the write-up of all the things I'd done wrong. It's called an OW write-up, overts and withholds. If he hadn't have locked me in that room, I wouldn't have done that, and therefore I wouldn't have fixed the problem. So thank you for forcing me to do what Scientology wants me to do. That was my mindset. Years later, I've realized, no, that's literally child abuse, but I didn't frame it as that at the time.
Yeah.
And there are people who had it far worse than I did. There are people who were raped as children, who were put on hard manual labor, locked in the chain locker of the ship. There are people who were physically beaten by David Miscavige, the leader of the church, and locked up on a hard manual labor camp in the Californian desert, not able to escape. Like, I had it very lightly in comparison to other people. And I wouldn't want people to go through what I went through. I can't even imagine what it's like for the people who worked at the upper levels of management who really suffered.
Were these just stories, or did you witness any of this kind of happening?
So in Scientology, there's the kind of three different tiers, if you like, of Scientologists. So there's the public parishioner. That's somebody who pays to do courses. That would be like your normal parishioner in a normal church. They go along, they learn, they read the books, they do the courses. Obviously in Scientology, nothing's free, so they have to pay for it. And they go home, they have their family life, they do whatever. Then there's the staff member. So they work in the city level churches like London, Sunderland, Plymouth, Brighton. They're called Class 5 orgs. Those are kind of where you join Scientology. Now, you can join as a staff member on a 2.5 or a 5-year contract, and you work full time. So you either work Monday to Friday, 9 till 6, or you work evenings and weekends. There's 2 shifts generally. And outside of that, you have a job to financially support yourself, because you don't get paid enough to, pay your rent or get even food, because it's considered a religious volunteer job. So you have another job outside and a life outside of Scientology, but you still are expected to conform. You still are subject to punishments and hard manual labor and this sort of stuff. But the worst is the C organization. That's the elite upper level management positions. So the advanced organizations, which are like the, sort of continental bases, the headquarters, if you like. So there's one in the UK called Saint Hill down in Sussex. There's one for Europe, which is in Denmark, and so on. They're all, like, each continent has its own advanced org. So that's where the management are based. And they've all signed 1 billion year contracts dedicating not just this life, but all future lives to working for the Church of Scientology. And they are the ones that are subjected to the worst punishments because they have nothing else. They're paid £50 a week. They're provided accommodation and food. And if they mess up, then they can very easily restrict your diet to rice and beans. They can restrict your sleeping, arrangements. They can say you're not allowed to sleep now because you've got to make amends for what you did wrong. They can, really put you on hard manual labor. That happens quite a lot. So the higher up you get, the worse it is in some ways.
That's mad, because you wouldn't ever think that. You think that would be the start, that's how they get you, you know what I mean? It's sort of bring you in, you're part of this religion, as it's called. I refer to it as a cult, because it's cult-like characteristics. And I'm quite surprised at higher up, because you've probably got more power. For me, I think you have more power when you're higher up, but it does sound like prison mentality or prison sort of manipulation in a way, So, and I'm amazed that they don't pay, because they get a lot of money. Where do they get the money from?
So Scientology has a lot of wealthy donors. There are lots of multi-millionaires. Trish Duggan, for example, who is the president of the Kennedy Foundation, very close with President Trump. I think, if I remember correctly, she was the single largest individual donor to the Trump campaign. She's also the largest donor to the Church of Scientology.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, wow.
Grant Cardone, who's this, social media fake billionaire, right? He donates a lot of money to Scientology. Tom Cruise, all these celebrities. So there's the really mega wealthy people, but I think actually they just extort money from everybody at every level of the organization. I know people who, for example, were doing really well in their life. They didn't come from money. They made a life for themselves. They had a job, a career. They finally managed to buy their first house, and then remortgaged it to give all of the money to Scientology. So they're extracting every piece of wealth out of you that they possibly can.
But it must get to a point where you go, hang on, this is not right. I really can't get my head around why people would stay, why people would remortgage a house and give all of this money. And also, why aren't these people, these higher ups, like you're saying, the likes of Tom Cruise and stuff like that, where's the suffering from them? Or are they beyond? Or are they not attached like anybody else is attached? Is there another level to this?
Yeah, so the thing you got to understand about Scientology is it's a totalitarian extremist belief system. So it's not like being a Christian, which can be quite a fluid thing. You have some really hardcore Christians, you have some people who just go to church on a Sunday for a social perspective, right? There's kind of different layers to your faith. There are no layers to your faith in Scientology. You are either 100% with us or against us, win or die in the attempt. That's a quote from the policy letter. The whole of Scientology is geared towards being all-encompassing. If you are not 100% committed and you do not believe 100% that this is not just a way of helping people, but the only thing that is going to change planet Earth for the better, then you're not a Scientologist. And it's all about indoctrination and brainwashing you so that you get to that place. So it starts off with a communication course. Try this and it can help you be a bit more confident. Or, try this course to learn how to, manage your finances or how to live a happier life with your spouse. All very kind of self-helpy type stuff. And it's designed to be like that in the beginning. And as you go deeper and deeper, the teachings just become more extreme, and you suddenly realize that you have to think in a Scientology way. It programs your brain to think in a certain way. And so if you don't 100% agree with it, by the time you get to that point, you're being punished for not agreeing with it.
And how deep did you get? Was there a point where you were you just become this person inside Scientology, and you're not true to who you are? There's got to be a shift. There's got to be a point where it just takes over, or
Scientology,
and then doubt kicks in. I'm fascinated, where you get to, and then when the doubt starts creeping in.
Yeah, for me, I was a fully committed, fully devout Scientologist. I spent all day, every day recruiting people. So people would come in to the church, on Tottenham Court Road or Queen Victoria Street, the one near Blackfriars, and be like, you're in a cult, you believe in Xenu, this space alien, you are attacking people, you can't leave if you don't want to. Every single day I was faced with those challenges, and every single day I was defending Scientology to these people and saying, no, you're wrong, because that wasn't my experience. I'd never read anything about space aliens. I could leave anytime I wanted. I felt happy. Yeah, I could have, done with earning a bit more money, but money's irrelevant. I'm helping people here, and that's what's important to me. That's how I felt. So when you're that committed, it does mean a lot to you, and you'll do anything that is required of you. So I was fairly low in the totem pole in Scientology terms. I was a staff member, the head of a department in a city level church, right? There are hundreds of churches around the world, and then advanced orgs, and then there's like the management. I was very low. I was like the lowest level of staff member, but I was still spending all day, every day selling Scientology to people. And that just indoctrinates you further. So I'd signed my SEAL contract. I'd signed my 1 billion year contract dedicating my life to Scientology, and I was on what's called a Project Prepare, which is basically a to-do list. It's like, cool, so this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen before you can then officially be a SEAL member. And I was on this kind of plan, this route to go move over to Clearwater, Florida, one of their main headquarters over in the States. And as part of that plan, I would have had to have disconnected from my family because they weren't Scientologists.
And is that what you did?
So I was fully committed, and I was about to do that when I got kicked out.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I was complaining that Scientology wasn't working. I was really upset about something. I had an auditing session. So auditing is like spiritual counseling is how they describe it. That's where you sit there with the cans on the e-meter that you've seen. It looks like an easy bake oven. This is like the main principle of Scientology, practicing Scientology. That's what it is. So I had a session, and I came out of that upset. I was crying, and I was kicking up a fuss, because in Scientology, the belief is that if you apply Scientology correctly, it will work 100% of the time. So if I've come out of this session feeling upset, that means it hasn't been done properly, because you should come out of a session feeling better, feeling happy, feeling in a higher state of existence than you did before you went in. So I was kicking up a fuss going, something's gone wrong here. I'm crying, I'm upset. I want Scientology to work. I believe Scientology can work. I've seen it help other people. I just want it to help me. And because I was kicking up a big fuss, they interpreted that to mean that I was saying Scientology doesn't work. And therefore I was declared a potential trouble source. And I was told to do an extensive return program, get back into good graces, which would have cost a lot of money and taken a lot of time. So I did that for a little bit because I still believed in Scientology, even though I wasn't allowed to go into the buildings. But over time, gradually drifted away. And then it was about 10 years after that had happened that I suddenly realized I was still thinking in a Scientology way, even though I hadn't set foot in a church for 10 years and I ditched the beliefs years ago. That's when I realized maybe this is still affecting me. I just did something like a Scientology technique subconsciously without realizing it. And I thought I'd kind of, gotten over that part of my life. So then I started a deep dive. I Googled Scientology, and then, here we are.
It's kind of got inside and built you up as a person, in a certain time of developmental stages from the ages of 16. So how long were you in before you got kicked out?
My Scientology experience from beginning to end was probably only about 5 or 6 years.
But still a long time. That's quite a long time though.
It's especially a long time when you're a teenager,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So I was speaking to my therapist about this, and she was saying that when you're a kid, your neural pathways are still forming. Your brain is still developing until you're in your late 20s, right? So if you're in a cult or a coercive group or, some sort of domestic abuse situation, that's going to affect you worse when you're a kid than if you spent the same amount of time in that situation as an adult, because it's literally programming your brain to think in a certain way. So it takes longer to recover and heal from. And so my brain was literally wired to think in a certain way, to be a Scientologist. So even when I left and I wasn't consciously applying Scientology, I was still literally like wired in my brain to be a Scientologist.
So how did you feel when you got kicked out? Must be like, was there any rejection in that, or yeah?
It was heartbreaking because I'd just signed my billion-year contract. I had dedicated not just this life, but all future lives to working 7 days a week with no time off for the Church of Scientology. That's how committed I was, right? And then they've said, you're complaining and we don't like you, so off you go. And as a teenager, must have been, 19, 20 or something at that age. I was still young, right? And I had quit university and I was doing this full time working for the church. Yeah, it was horrible.
I'm surprised they dismissed you that quick.
Scientology has a habit of keeping people in who want to leave and kicking people out who want to stay.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's bizarre because it seems like they spend all of this time trying to get you on board. It just seems to be quite dismissive, But is that a technique of you having to spend more money to put it back in? Is that what they're looking for, as a kind of financial reward?
I think if you start asking questions like that, you end up falling into the trap of applying logic. And there is no logic to a lot of what happens in Scientology, right? The whole thing is designed to manipulate people. It's designed to take advantage of people. Yes, if you'd donated more money, that would have helped. But there are still people who are millionaire Scientologists who are prevented from doing the next level because of some problem they've got with Scientology. Like, it's all about conformity. If you don't conform, then you're out. And that's the problem with me. I was complaining it wasn't working.
That makes no sense to me. I can't get my head around it, Alex. I'm trying to understand this,
Because it's all encompassing, right? It's what you believe in. So do you have a family?
Yeah.
Do you have kids?
Yes.
Okay, so you would agree that you love your kids, right? Okay, so there's nothing that's going to change the fact that you love your kids, right? That's what Scientology is like. Nothing is going to change that you believe this works, right? You think that this is the thing that's going to help mankind. It's the only thing, right? Love is the only thing you feel for your children, right? Same with Scientology.
Yeah.
Scientology is the only thing that will help the planet. Yeah. So when you believe something that solidly, there is no question in your mind, it's absolute certainty, nothing's going to change that. Yeah. And you will do anything for your kids. Yeah. You would do anything for Scientology.
Yeah, but if they started robbing some money out of my pockets, I would be a bit sketchy about it. I would kind of...
They're not robbing money. That's not what they are.
You know what I mean? But it's kind of, in a way, you kind of go, hang on.
Yeah.
But if you keep breaking things in the house and you keep kind of lying to us and you keep... There's something kind of... There's an instinctual gut feeling that just goes, hang on there. Something's not right, And was there anything about that you felt at the time?
For me, it was when for a lot of people, yes. A lot of people just get to the point where they're, on hard manual labor, they are being physically beaten, they're being prevented from speaking to their family and their friends because they've left the church. Suddenly something clicks and they realize that, well, hold on a second, what am I in? Yeah. For me, that didn't happen until later, and I realized I was still applying Scientology in my life without realizing it. Yeah. But I think the thing you have to understand is like, you don't realize you're being manipulated. You think that when you donate money, you're getting something back for that. You're getting eternal freedom, spiritual freedom, right? You are donating money and it's going towards opening a brand new Church of Scientology that's going to help a million people. It's going towards humanitarian projects, the volunteer ministers, or Narcanon helping people get off drugs, or, it's helping with disaster relief, or all of these wonderful, shiny PR glossy things that Scientology say they do. That is all a front. They're front groups designed to be used to take people's money. So you are giving this money and you're getting services in return, and you're donating and you're seeing these new buildings, these new churches opening in these cities around the world, and you see these pictures and videos that they look really busy and full, and you think, wow, we're expanding, we're helping people, this is growing, it's the coolest, fastest growing religion on planet Earth. You see these videos of volunteer ministers at, earthquake sites and disaster zones. You think, yeah, we're really on the front line helping people. That's what you believe is happening, but it is all a lie. It's all a facade. Those things are PR photo opportunities that are set up in order to manipulate the members so they donate more money. These ideal orgs, which are the big flashy new churches that are opening in cities around the world, as soon as the opening event is over, they're empty. There are 3 staff members at Sunderland org. 3. But you think in Scientology that it's just your org. All of the others are growing, expanding, and busy all the time. It's just my org that's not. So we need to try harder, work harder, because we need to be like all the other ones. But all of those videos and photos you're seeing are all staged.
And you mentioned when you left, you were still having traits of that mindset of being in Scientology. And when was the realization? What were you actually doing?
So there's a thing in Scientology called the tone level, the tone scale, right? So your emotions in Scientology are plotted on a scale, like a graph. So you don't just go from being happy to being sad like that. There's a process from which you change emotions. That's how it's pitched. You go, yeah, that kind of makes sense, right? You don't just flip from one to the other. You might, feel a bit anxious and then you start to feel depressed or whatever, right? Scientology has a whole formula that says you always go up or down on this tone scale. So the idea is that you can use this technology, it's called, in order to live a better existence, have better communication with other people. And that's something that was innately baked into every Scientologist. And one of the things to Scientology is that you have a reactive mind. So again, this is all bogus, made up by L. Ron Hubbard, a failed science fiction writer. But he said that you have a reactive mind and an analytical mind. When you're thinking with your reactive mind, you're not thinking logically, you're not thinking rationally, and therefore, if you are angry or you're upset, that's your reactive mind taking over, right? So for me, I was having a disagreement with a friend, and I don't know why, but just suddenly I realized that I wasn't listening to a word he was saying. I was trying to change his emotions because I didn't believe in the reactive mind anymore, but I saw this guy that was upset, angry, whatever, and I was trying to manipulate his emotions so that he was not being those things, so that we could rationally talk about what the issue was, because you're not going to rationally solve anything when you're thinking with your reactive mind. I didn't think that, but it's what I was doing. I was emotionally manipulating my friend, and I didn't even realize it. That's the problem, is it was so deep in my brain, I was doing it without realizing. And then suddenly I'm like, whoa, how deep does this go? What else am I doing that's a Scientology technique that I'm not even realizing?
So what did you do? What was the...
I Googled Scientology.
Really? So was that the first time? You just sort of...
Because you're forbidden from looking up anything negative about Scientology on the internet, because L. Ron Hubbard is called source in Scientology. He's the source of all this wonderful, information, technology, all of this stuff. So why would you need to get information from anywhere else? Why would you want to read something negative about Scientology when you are a Scientologist, you're in the church every day, you're experiencing it, and you know what it's like, you're seeing other people having a great time? Why would you need to read anything negative about it online? Why? Because all that's going to do is bring you down, and you don't want to be down. You want to be happy and, cool all the time. That's how Scientology is designed to make you feel.
Yeah.
So you don't Google Scientology. And if you're a staff member or a SEAL member, you have your access to the outside world restricted, right? You're not allowed, for example, if you're in the Sea Org, you're not allowed to have a mobile phone. You're not allowed to access the internet. Your contact to the outside world is heavily censored. So even if you wanted to, you couldn't Google Scientology. As a staff member, you could probably Google Scientology, but you'd get in trouble for it. You would be interrogated on the e-meter as to why you would Google Scientology. Like, why would you want to read something negative about this group? Because that means you've done something wrong in Scientology belief. That the only reason you'd want to find out bad information is because you're connected to an enemy of the church, or you've done something wrong. You've got hidden crimes that you haven't confessed to because you've done effectively a sin, right? So for me, I didn't Google Scientology because I never felt I needed to. I'd been in Scientology. I'd had this abusive, traumatic experience, but I didn't think of it as abuse or trauma. I just thought of it as this thing that I didn't want to think about too much. I'm not in it anymore. I've gradually drifted away and I'm going to move on with my life and not touch that part of my brain because it's, too much. And then I realized I was doing this Scientology thing and I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to Google Scientology. And up come all of these stories, videos on YouTube from former executives and Scientologists or ex-Scientologists talking about the hard manual labor, the physical punishments, the financial extortion, the fraud, the lies, the deception, and you just go down this rabbit hole and you suddenly realize what this thing actually is because you're reading other sources of information, not just what Scientology are telling you.
Yeah, and also you're seeing, you're kind of feeling exactly what happened to you as well, you go, oh, hang on. It starts going ding, ding, ding on the checklist in your head going, right, this is a problem. Yeah. But why did it take you so long to look up that kind of stuff? Just because you're sort of drifting away? Was there something pulling you back a little bit, or I might go back in at some point, or was there any of that?
Yeah, I had a return program. So it was after being declared a potential trouble source, you're given a list of things to do. They go, okay, so if you do this course and this and this and this, then you could do a petition and you can ask for the group to accept you back in to Scientology. And then you'll be back in good graces and you can come back into Scientology, but you have to do these things first. So to begin with, I started working on this program and I was doing everything on the list. But then not being there all day, every day, being indoctrinated, I gradually drifted away because I was doing my own thing. I was, spending time with friends. I was finishing school. I got a job and had my own life. So wasn't finding the time to do Scientology. I wasn't there all the time. So I wasn't being indoctrinated. So over time, I just gradually drifted away. And I still believed in Scientology, but I wasn't like an active Scientologist. So if, for example, something would come up on the TV about Scientology, I would change the channel, but I don't want to hear it. If a friend would ask me about Scientology, I would get a bit nervous about it.
They must have been fascinated by it, though. They must have been want to ask all the questions and go, tell us the secrets,
Yeah, and it was really hard because in Scientology, the public image is the most important thing. You have to protect the church at all costs. So here I am, having been kicked out, having had like a negative experience, and someone's asking, what is Scientology? What was your experience? I don't want to tell them the truth because that makes the church look bad. I don't want to tell them that I'm currently on a return program because, being declared a potential trouble source. Like, I'm still trying to defend the church.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I just didn't want to talk about it because I still believed that if it was done correctly, it would all work out okay.
Yeah. It's like, you've got a secret in civilization. You're back into Civvy Street and you've still got this secret that you're an agent, you're repping something. Do you know what I mean? It kind of almost feels like that, So that's why I'm just intrigued of like why you didn't just go, thank God I'm out of that. And did you have similar friends when you started, or did you just gain a new group of friends when you came out? What was that like?
So I lost everything in Scientology, because it becomes everything in your life. So you're working full time for the Church of Scientology every single day, Monday to Friday officially, but also weekends, right? It was everything. Everybody I spent time with was a Scientologist. So the moment I get declared a potential trouble source, all of those people are now forbidden from talking to you. They're not allowed to have any communication with you whatsoever. No texts, no Christmas cards, no birthday cards, no, hey, how's it going? Do you want to catch up sometime? Nothing. You are persona non grata. So obviously, as a teenager, I'm going to fight to get my friends back. I'm going to fight to, get back into this group. Like, imagine as a teenager at school, right? And you have a disagreement with your friends and it's like, you can't sit with us anymore. Like, that hurts as a kid, right? Now I'm an adult, I don't care. But back then it meant a lot.
Yeah.
And so I lost everything when I got kicked out. And that's why I was fighting. One of the reasons I was fighting so hard to get back in. And then over time, gradually drifted away and, made friends at school, and, family friends and all of this, and got a job and made friends there, and had this new life. But all of these people that I met after that time in my life had no idea I was even in Scientology.
Yeah.
I was speaking to a friend the other day who I've known for 10 years. They didn't even know I was in Scientology until I started my YouTube channel. It was traumatic. It was it was hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Because to me, it felt like I'd lost everything.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like abusive families, you keep going back because it's a family and they've kind of cared and protected for you. Was there any true, genuine relationships you had, really true ones? Few people that you just think of now and again of actually they could have been a friend outside of Scientology.
Yeah, everyone in Scientology, I think that the majority of Scientologists are genuinely good people. They think they are helping the world. They think that they are doing the best thing for mankind. They don't realize they're being manipulated and being lied to and being deceived. So all of these people that I was friends with, when they suddenly had to stop being friends with me because the church tells them not to, they think that that's for the greater good for the world. So friendships, family, things like this suddenly become very meaningless in Scientology. So as much as in Scientology you would care about someone, for example, if you would have kids in Scientology, because the belief is that you're an immortal spiritual being that has lived millions of lives before and will live millions more, who is your child this lifetime, wasn't your child last lifetime, and won't be your child next lifetime. So it kind of doesn't mean anything. There's no love in Scientology.
Okay. Yeah.
So connection.
Our belief's number one, isn't it?
Yeah, Scientology is the most important thing before anything else.
Yeah.
So yes, you might be a friend and you might get on really well. You might spend all day, every day together, hanging out, playing Xbox outside of, work, hanging out, calling each other, eating food together, doing all the stuff that teenagers do. But if Scientology tells you that that person is now their enemy, okay, cool, I don't want anything to do with them anymore. It's all gone.
Do you know anybody left who was a friend in there?
Yeah, so there's a couple of people who have left who are what we call under the radar, who don't want to speak out because Scientology has a very well documented history of attacking and harassing its critics, right?
Yeah,
since speaking out, I've become the target of one of these prolific campaigns. I've had over 10,000 attack tweets. My front door has been kicked in. My employer, my family, very close friends have all been contacted by Scientology in this smear campaign. I have a hate website. myname.org is a Scientology-owned website. They have hate videos going out pretty much every single day attacking me. So they go after anyone who speaks out against Scientology.
A lot of effort. There must be a few more websites kicking around though.
Yeah. Because I am the enemy. Yeah. Because I'm trying to expose Scientology's abuses. And I'm going up against it. And anybody who goes up against Scientology may be, and this is a quote from policy, may be tricked, sued, lied to, or destroyed. The policy is to destroy a critic. So if you're speaking out and say, hey, these guys are abusing people, I don't care what you believe. Yeah, you could be a Scientologist. That, you're free to believe in whatever you want to believe in, but don't abuse kids. Don't force people to have abortions. Don't lock people up. Don't force people to, do hard manual labor as punishments. Don't force families to disconnect from one another simply because one has a different belief to the other. That's abuse. Don't do those things. Believe in Scientology all you want, but stop the abuse. That's what I'm saying. But because that is against Scientology in some way, shape, or form, I am the enemy, and they will do anything they can to destroy me. That's the policy. So when you ask about people who've left that I've worked with and all of this, yeah, there are several people who have left that are under the radar, terrified of speaking out, who will never come up because maybe they have family that are still in Scientology. And if they were to speak up, they'd have to disconnect from their family members. So there are people who I'm in contact with, yes, but most of the people are too afraid.
What keeps you going? What keeps you going against them?
Because I think one person abused is too many. I suffered in Scientology, nothing compared to what other people suffered. I would never want someone to go through what I went through, let alone all of the other worse, more horrific stories of abuse. I have a position where I can make a small difference, right? There's very few people in the UK speaking out about Scientology. People think here that it's this crazy American cult that Tom Cruise is a part of and believes in aliens. And yes, all those things are true, but people don't realize that it is a harmful, dangerous organization. That was what a High Court judge, Lord Justice Leahy, ruled in 1984, was that this is a harmful, dangerous organization that is out to capture people, especially children and impressionable young people. People seem to have forgotten this. Scientology was found guilty in the 1970s of the largest infiltration of the US government in its history. L. Ron Hubbard's wife went to prison, right? This is a covert intelligence operation that's masquerading as a religion that's all about making money and attacking anybody who comes up against it using bully tactics, right? This is a dangerous organization that exists here in the UK. And this abuse happens at every level of the organization in every city in which it operates. That's London, that's Plymouth, that's Sunderland, that's Brighton, Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh. All of these places have Scientology buildings, and people in those buildings are being abused right now.
So why hasn't anything been done about it then, if that's the case?
I think there's been a well-documented history of people trying to do something about it. In the 1970s, the government, there was a government inquiry here in the UK called the Foster Report, which found that Scientology amounts to psychotherapy and should therefore be regulated and is dangerous to people's mental health. But unfortunately, psychotherapy became regulated, but for some reason, Scientology wasn't included in that. Mm-hmm. There has been a monumental shift in the last few years of people speaking out about the abuse that they suffered in Scientology. You know, Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath was an Emmy Award-winning TV show where people spoke about the abuse that they suffered. BBC Panorama, Going Clear, there's lots of documentaries. Hundreds of people are now finding YouTube as a platform to speak about their abuse. That's what I'm doing. But people in the UK specifically seem to kind of forgotten that it's here as well. And that's why I'm trying to shout from the rooftops about it and say, no, look, guys, this is here in most cities in the UK, and we need to pay attention to it. Now, in the UK, the Serious Crime Act 2015 made coercive control a criminal act. It outlawed it, but it applies only specifically to close domestic, personal, family relationships. It doesn't recognize coercive control as something illegal if it's done with a group or in a religious context, which I think is insane to say this thing is illegal, but only if it's done by this person. Yeah. That's what the law currently says. Yeah. So what I'm doing at the moment is campaigning for a change in that coercive control legislation so that it can be applied to all situations, all relationships you might have with a group or whatever. And that's something I'm doing with the Family Survival Trust. The Aftermath Foundation as well are helping people escape and leave. More and more people are coming out and speaking about what's happening. And that's great.
Is it happening more? Are you finding this out more? People are leaving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I get contacted every single day by at least one new person who says, hey, I'm in Scientology. I've, seen your videos and I'm not ready to leave yet, but, this person is suffering, or I need a bit of help, and I direct them towards the Aftermath Foundation, or say, look, here, I'm here to help if there's anything I can do to help. There are more and more people coming through the woodworks. Scientology say they're the fastest growing religion on planet Earth, but they're actually the fastest shrinking religion on planet Earth.
Oh, really? Okay. Because it seems like now you've got your purpose. Your purpose was in, now your purpose is out.
My purpose hasn't changed. My purpose is to help people. I thought I was helping people with Scientology. Actually, what I was doing was hurting people. Now, I'm actually helping people.
Yeah.
because I'm raising awareness about the abuse. I'm raising awareness about the coercive control, the horrible tactics that they engage, the bully-like tactics against critics and former members like me. So I'm doing what I can to try and help people now, and I'm actually helping them rather than thinking I'm helping them but actually harming them.
What's your thoughts now? Do you feel kind of, there's a little bit of like weight off the shoulders? You feel like you're putting your time in, and obviously it's a lot of time and effort on your behalf for other people, you know? And how do you fund this? Is it funded? You know what I mean? Sort of your purpose and what you do. It seems like it's a full-time task.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, but it's worth it. Right? People are being abused by this organization right now. And I'm going to do anything and everything that I can to stop that abuse from happening. And I'm not going to stop until the abuse stops. It's not about notoriety or fulfilling my purpose or a weight on my shoulders. Yes, there's a weight on my shoulders that I helped people get into this thing, and I feel it's only right that I help people get out. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing what I'm doing because it's the right thing to do. There is a group of people here that are abusing children, that are abusing adults, using coercive control. They have been doing it since they set up shop in the UK in 1959, right? They've been doing it and getting away with it for decades, and nothing has been done about it. So, of course, I'm going to spend as much time as I can trying to tell people that that's going on and try and campaign for greater awareness and the legislative change that's needed so that we can seek justice.
And do you find you need help in this role as well? Because you can't do it yourself, can you? You've got to, you need to kind of build this, what you're trying to do, and where do you see that going, you know?
I mean, I'm not the first person to speak out about Scientology. I certainly won't be the last. I'm not the first in the UK. I won't be the last. There have been hundreds of ex-Scientologists speaking out that came before me. There are some that are speaking out that have been speaking out for decades. There's a couple of people who have spoken out in the UK before. But the reason I started speaking out was because when I was looking up these stories about abuse that people were suffering, it was mostly at the higher level of management over in the US. These people in the Sea Org over in California who worked at the upper levels of management with David Miscavige. There wasn't really much, if anything, about somebody from the UK suffering in Scientology. So I thought that perhaps I could help some people by telling them my story and helping people understand that this abuse happens everywhere in Scientology, in every country. So I think it's really important to get that perspective, the perspective of as many people as possible. Oh, that's it. And the more people that contribute, the more powerful your argument is and the more powerful your movement becomes. So sometimes it feels like I'm on my own, yes, because I'm the face on the Tottenham Court Road billboards. You know, I've got my hate website with my face plastered all over it. It's my YouTube channel. But there are lots of people that I'm being a voice for who can't have their face shown publicly because they don't want the harassment. There's a lot of people who are helping me behind the scenes, who are supporting in various ways. You know, I've organised a protest once a year for the last, I've only been speaking out 2 years, so 2 protests where 20, 30, 40 people were standing alongside me with the signs and banners trying to help. So I'm very much not alone. There's a community of people here to support you when you leave Scientology, and that community is really, really important.
And what do you feel needs to be done though? What's the step that you can kind of get to, the action you can get to actually make that difference? Is it just raising awareness? Is it getting the government to understand, or are they not going to help, or what? What's the plan?
I think, yeah, firstly, the public perception on what Scientology is needs to change. Right, we need to shift the narrative. People need to stop thinking of it as this crazy American cult and start thinking of it as this harmful, abusive organization. I think there needs to be legislative change. I think that laws need to be changed, like the Serious Crime Act 2015, so that survivors can seek justice, because at the moment it's very hard to seek justice against Scientology because coercive control is not illegal unless it's done by your wife or your partner or your spouse. Which is kind of ridiculous. So the law needs to change. And in order for that to happen, government officials need to understand that this is a nationwide problem, and people are being harmed every single day. And the way you do that is by lobbying government. You know, I've been meeting with members of parliament, getting as much press attention as I possibly can to try and say, hey guys, this is happening here and you need to pay attention to it.
Do you liken this to other religions and cults or not?
Yeah, the mechanisms and the tools Scientology use to control people are identical to any other cult, right? Cults have a playbook of techniques that they use that might be called a different thing or framed in a different way, but essentially it all revolves around control. It's all revolved around coercive behavior, coercive people into doing things they don't want to do, manipulation, lies, deceit. So all of those things are common through every cult. Scientology is probably the mother of all cults because it has all of those techniques, whereas some cults might only have one or two, or a selection of them. In terms of other religions, no, I think there's a difference between a bona fide religion and a destructive, harmful cult. You know, a bona fide, church isn't out to manipulate you, control you, tell you who you can and can't be friends with, and punish you if you don't toe the line unquestionably. Whereas Scientology is out to completely manipulate every aspect of your life and control you.
So why do people keep gravitating towards it? And why is it so successful?
I don't think people are gravitating towards it. I think that is a lie that Scientology tells the world. Yeah, I'm sure a couple of people are joining, but Scientology orgs around the world are empty. If you were to walk into one tomorrow, I bet you there might be one or two people there, right? This is an image that they are trying to portray, that they're the fastest growing religion on planet Earth. The majority of Scientologists are second, third, or fourth generation. They've been raised in this thing. It's not their choice. They don't know anything different. They have no other life outside of Scientology. So they can't leave because that would have been losing everything. They've been raised in this thing. So it's harder for them to leave mentally, but they didn't choose to join. There are obviously exceptions. I joined because I fell victim to their manipulation tactics. But people aren't flocking into churches of Scientology around the world and joining them. It's the fastest shrinking religion on planet Earth.
There must be something in that. There must be something like, this is not allowed. You're not allowed to kind of promote it in a way. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't be allowed to advertise. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, why is it a known thing? But why we go, Tom Cruise is a Scientologist, but we hold him aloft because he's a successful person. Do you know what I mean?
But
and I think
Tom Cruise is also the beneficiary of slave labor provided by the Church of Scientology. His staff members are all SEAL members. They have signed $1 billion-year contracts dedicating their life to working for the Church of Scientology. They are paid £50 a week. They work 7 days a week with no time off, 14, 16, 18-hour days, 7 days a week. Yeah. They're not allowed holidays. They don't have a pension. They don't have a retirement fund. They work for the church and are provided to Tom Cruise to, do whatever he needs because the church is trying to always impress Tom Cruise and celebrities. So they give him all of these staff members to, make his life easier.
Yeah, but we're in a culture now where that surely, alarm bells ring and you go, this is not right. So
exactly.
Let's do something about it. But it's still happening. That's what I'm trying to get to. Is like, this is still going on. And that's why it's like, people are still doing this. People are still going to it because of the likes of someone like him, but they should be pointing the finger at him going, he should be cancelled. Is it because he's successful? What is that? Why is that,
Yeah. Well, that's the question. That's why I'm trying to do what I'm doing, is to raise awareness of how this organization operates and what that means for people who are in. Tom Cruise has every right to be a Scientologist if he wants to be, but he is also the beneficiary of slave labor. He is also the chief spokesperson, the chief promoter of this organization that is abusing people. And I can't get on board with that. Yes, he's a very talented actor. Great, celebrate him for being an actor and watch his films, whatever. But understand that the money that he's earning from those films is being donated to the Church of Scientology. That money is being used to attack people like me by putting hate websites up and 10,000 attack tweets kicking my front door in. It's being used to abuse people. That's where your ticket money from going to see a film in the cinema or your Netflix subscription watching Mission Impossible. That's where your money is going. So if you're okay with that, go ahead, watch Tom Cruise films. I don't care.
That's the
But
thing.
I don't think people realize that that's where their money is going. What if it was your child? What if your son or daughter had been raped as a teenager, had been put on hard manual labor as punishment, had been, forced to disconnect from you because you didn't agree with the same belief system she did? Would you still then support Tom Cruise, who is the biggest promoter of that group that had that happen to her?
I think some people are just have too much power. And is Scientology, does it have too much power?
Scientology holds a lot of power over all of its parishioners. Scientology controls its parishioners' lives in every way imaginable. It controls your behavior, the information you receive, your thoughts, your emotions. It's called the BITE model by Dr. Steve Hassan. It's one of the ways of detecting or figuring out what a cult is whether it controls your behavior, your information, your thought, and your emotions. Scientology fits the bill. It controls every aspect of your life, and therefore it has a lot of power over its people. But in the real world, I don't think it holds a lot of power. People are scared of Scientology. That's why it's hard to get politicians and policymakers and law enforcement to take a stand against them, because they know doing so will result in billions of dollars of legal threats and bully tactics and harassment. But grow a pair of balls. People are being abused, right? Somebody needs to do something about this. Don't give them power by backing down at the thought you might get a hate website or a couple of angry tweets, or in my case, 10,000 angry tweets. So what? People are being harmed.
Yeah, I think it's the only time you've ever heard of a religion attacking, making an actual effort to go for you, to go after people who leave.
They are faith-bound, not just to do a smear campaign or to attack me, but to destroy me on a spiritual level. But not just me, anybody who speaks out against Scientology. Anybody who sticks their head up and says, even in the most fairest of ways, hey, Scientology is not for me anymore. I'm done. If you do that publicly, you are an enemy. If you are abused as a child in Scientology and you go to law enforcement and you make a police report that says, hey, I was abused, you are kicked out of the church and branded an enemy. You are then attacked because you are considered fair game. That's how this organization works.
Was Scientology always like this, or did it lose its way?
Scientology was designed to be this way by L. Ron Hubbard in the 1950s. There's a big debate about whether he intentionally created this system with a goal of controlling people, or whether it started out with the best intentions and ended up being a way of controlling people. That's a debate. I don't know, I wasn't there. But it has certainly got worse under the leadership of David Miscavige, who took over control after L. Ron Hubbard died in 1986. Miscavige is a ruthless tyrant that will physically assault anybody who crosses his path. And that's not just me saying it, that is from Debbie Cook's legal testimony that she said under oath in a lawsuit over in the US. Before she was paid lots of money to stop talking in court. Anybody who was in David Miscavige's close sphere that I've met or I've spoken to have attested to the fact that he is a tiny tyrant. He thinks he is the most important person on planet Earth, and he will do anything to get his way. So because of that mentality, Scientology itself has got a lot more ruthless over the years since he's been in charge. But the policies that he is using, fair game, attacking critics, they were all created by L. Ron Hubbard, and they've been there since the 1950s.
Mm-hmm. Did he not disappear, Miscavige? There's some kind of, all I've heard is rumours on the internet, his wife.
His wife, Shelley, yeah.
Yeah.
Shelley Miscavige is David Miscavige's wife, and she is a an executive in Scientology, and apparently she had a disagreement with something. I don't know the ins and outs, I wasn't there, but she was banished to a remote location. Scientology have these remote secret sites, bunkers, where they restore and keep Scientology scriptures in nuclear-proof bunkers so they survive the apocalypse. That's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But these are remote locations, and Shelley Miscavige has been sent to one of these so that she is out of the picture, so that she is away from the spotlight. Whether it's a punishment, whether she wants to be there or whether she wants to leave is unknown, but nobody has seen her in public for well over a decade.
Well, that sounds like she's a prisoner.
Exactly. Everyone in Scientology is a prisoner of their own mind.
So let's finish on a positive note, Alex. A message out there to people. Obviously, you've probably delivered loads throughout this. Final thought, what would you like to say?
You are not alone. If you need help leaving Scientology, contact the Aftermath Foundation. Don't be afraid to look up Scientology, to read alternative thoughts and opinions. It's okay to have doubts. It's okay to put your mental health first. For those of you who are watching that aren't ex-Scientologists, I'd like to perhaps ask you to think about what you've heard and consider writing to your Member of Parliament and saying, would you support changing the Serious Crime Act, just adjusting it slightly so that this coercive control clause can be applied to everybody, not just in close family personal relationships. You know, consider speaking up. Speak to a friend about it. You know, when was the last time you asked your mates what they think about Scientology? You know, that wasn't just oh yeah, Tom Cruise. You know, talk to people about it, get the word out there, because the more people that speak about it, the more people are aware that this is an organization that is out to capture people, especially children. They will exploit your vulnerabilities. So if you've ever had a vulnerable moment in your life, you are primed for the picking for Scientology. So protect yourself, educate yourself, look it up online.